I'm Susan Beck, and I'm here to teach you how to make roasted sweet potatoes. I got these giant sweet potatoes at the orchard. They're huge. My recipe calls for two large sweet potatoes, but I think these are giant enough that one's all we need. As you can see, I've already started to peel this one, so I'm just going to continue to take off the peeling. I'm just using my old standard vegetable peeler that I would use for potatoes or carrots or even parsnips. So once those are removed, I'm going to use my knife and cut off the root end. I see I've got a little spot in here that I don't particularly want, so I'm going to cut that out as well. There's another little spot. So clean it up, get rid of any peels or any bad spots. Before I go any farther, I'm going to preheat my oven to 450 degrees. That way the oven will be nice and hot and ready when I am finished. Now I chose to roast these sweet potatoes, and I'm just going to do some slicing while I talk. I'm going to roast them because they cook much quicker. I can have these done in 20 or 25 minutes compared to if I had put this into the oven whole. Into the oven whole would probably take at least an hour and a half with this dense vegetable and the fact that this was such a giant one. I actually started looking for this recipe one Sunday when I wanted to cook sweet potatoes much quicker for my daughter before she headed off to college, and I knew I didn't have time to bake them. So now I'm just going to chunk them into like 1-inch pieces. So I've got all these little rounds. They don't have to be anything perfect. I'm just going to move them over here to my baking sheet to get them out of my way as I go. Now you will notice that I am putting my sweet potatoes on a baking sheet that has parchment paper on it. I prefer to put it on parchment paper because they won't stick. The recipe originally called for tin foil, but I'm not a big fan of tin foil when I'm using butter and brown sugar because those are two ingredients that burn onto both the pan and the tin foil and can be just kind of worrisome in that you might get some tin foil on your sweet potatoes, and that's not much fun to eat. So I really like the parchment paper. They'll just roll right off of there. Let's finish cutting these sweet potatoes. As you can see, my sweet potatoes are all chunked and laying on the parchment paper. That's enough to serve 3, probably 4 people when you consider that a vegetable serving is usually a half a cup. We'll be mixing next some butter, brown sugar, salt, cayenne pepper, and cinnamon. I have 4 tablespoons of melted butter, and into that is going to go a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now you might think, ooh, cayenne pepper, a little spicy, but really goes well when you're adding in some sweetness. I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Final step is to give those ingredients a little stir. Make sure that brown sugar is all broken up in there. Drizzle it over your sweet potatoes. Time to get a little messy as we toss it all together. And after I wash my hands, these are ready to go in the oven, all spread out in a single layer. Alright, now my sweet potatoes are ready to go into the oven at 450 degrees. Right in the middle on the rack is a good place for them. About halfway through, I will flip them over and give them a little toss with my spatula. You might be thinking about what to serve these with. The first time I made these, we made it with some chicken. Excellent. Tonight, we're going a little simpler with tuna noodle casserole. It'll just glamour up supper a little bit to have these great roasted sweet potatoes. The tuna noodle casserole is underway, and I am ready to pour these sweet potatoes right into a serving bowl. As promised, they're going to slide right off of that parchment paper. Let's grab a spatula for the last few. And you probably should give it a taste too. caramelized with that brown sugar. Just that little bit of spice with the cayenne. I'm sure you'd love this side dish.